It's a bit too late for that now, Mr. Kane. Hey everyone, Henry Yellow here, welcome back. Today we are going to watch Citizen Kane. A lot of you have mentioned about this movie, so I've decided to watch it while I take a short little, a week's break from my Hitchcock run. And I didn't know what this movie was about at all, so I just went to search for a very brief summary just to get a gist of what the movie is about. And I found this one sentence. When a famous tycoon utters a mysterious word before dying, a journalist embarks on a journey to uncover the secret behind it. I suppose that's the simplest way someone could summarize the movie. That's good enough for me. In this movie, we'll also see Joseph Cotton, who was a character in Shadow of a Doubt. So are you guys ready? Let's watch Citizen Kane. It's Manderley. Very spooky atmosphere. Oh, that's a nice transition from the outside to the inside. Rosebud.
News on the march!
In Xanadu did Kubla Khan a stately pleasure dome decree. What am I reading?
Today, almost as legendary as Florida's Xanadu, world's largest private pleasure ground. A collection of everything, so big it can never be catalogued or appraised. Xanadu is the costliest monument a man has built to himself. Charles Foster Kane.
The words Charles Foster Kane are a menace to every working man in this land. A fascist.
And still another opinion.
I am, have been, and will be only one thing. An American.
Spoke for millions of Americans. Was hated by as many more.
Well, he's controversial.
No public issue on which Kane papers took no stand. Twice married, twice divorced. Emily Norton, who left him in 1916. 2 weeks after his first divorce, Kane married Susan Alexander. Kane built Chicago's Municipal Opera House. Cost $3 million.
Wow.
Have finished before she divorced him, Xanadu. In 1916, as independent candidate for governor, the White House seemingly the next easy step in a lightning political career. Then, suddenly, defeat. Shameful.
Scandal.
In the first year of the Great Depression, a Kane paper closes. Kane helped to change the world. But Kane's world now is history. Alone in his never-finished, already decaying pleasure palace, vainly attempted to sway, as he once did, the destinies of a nation that had ceased to listen to him.
His time has gone past, his era has passed.
News! On the march!
The end. The end. So we've seen his entire history.
70 years in a man's life.
That's a lot to try to get into a newsreel.
Charles Foster Kane died. He said just one word.
Rosebud.
Tough guy. Here's a man that could have been president, who was as loved and hated, but when he comes to die, he's got something on his mind called Rosebud. Get in touch with everybody that ever worked for him, whoever loved him, whoever hated his guts. Rosebud. It'll probably turn out to be a very simple thing.
This is Mr. Thompson, Miss Alexander. If I could just have a little talk with you, Miss Alexander,
Get out!
Did you ever say anything about Rosebud? Just the other day, when the papers were full of it, I asked her. She never heard of Rosebud.
Rosebud will remain a mystery for now.
You will be required to leave this room at 4:30 promptly. You will confine yourself to the chapters in Mr. Thatcher's manuscript regarding Mr. Kane, pages 83 to 142.
Oh, very strict protection. Almost 60 pages. And he only has 1 hour to go through all of it and remember all of it.
I don't see why we can't raise our own son just because we come into some money. I don't hold with signing my boy away to any bank as guardian.
I want you to
just
stop
because.
all this nonsense.
Well, I'm a
$50,000 a year is to be paid to you and Mr. Kane as long as you both live, and thereafter to the survivor, your son Charles Foster Kane, until he reaches his 25th birthday, at which time he is to come into complete possession.
Charles!
Mr. Thatcher's going to take you on a trip with him tonight.
Why aren't you coming with us, Mom?
We have to stay here, Charles.
You'll probably be the richest man in America someday, and you
You
ought to
won't
get
be
an
lonely,
education.
Charles.
Only, of course not.
Sorry.
What's that to display with? What that kid needs is a good thrashing.
That's why he's going to be brought up where you can't get at him.
Of course, Charles wouldn't want to leave his parents at that age.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
And a Happy New Year.
Oh, they skipped the years so fast.
Sorry, but I'm not interested in gold mines, oil wells, shipping, or real estate.
Not interested. The New York Inquirer. Please don't sell it. I'm coming back to America to take charge. I think it would be fun to run a newspaper.
No, he doesn't want the fate that people have fixed for him. He wants to do his own thing.
Action Trust feeds public by Action Trust smashed by Inquirer.
Is that really your idea of how to run a newspaper?
I don't know how to run a newspaper, Mr.
How do you do, Mr. Thatcher?
Leland, Mr. Thatcher.
Ah, Joseph Cotton.
There is no war in Cuba. Signed Wheeler.
You provide the prose poems, I'll provide the war. It's also my pleasure to see to it that decent, hard-working people in this community aren't robbed blind by a pack of money-mad pirates.
Don't you think it's rather unwise to continue this philanthropic enterprise costing you $1 million a year?
You're right, Mr. Thatcher.
$1 million a year.
I'll have to close this place in 60 years.
Oh man, he is rich. Can last for 60 years losing $1 million a year.
Charles Foster Kane hereby relinquishes all control thereof.
We're bust. All right.
Well, out of cash.
All right, Mr. Bernstein. I've read it, Mr. Thatcher.
Thatcher and Company agrees to pay to Charles Foster Kane as long as
My
he lives.
allowance.
This depression, temporary.
It's a cinch I'll die richer than I was born.
Yeah, and the depression hit hard.
I always gagged on that silver spoon. If I hadn't been very rich, I might have been a really great man.
What would you like to have been?
Everything you hate.
Yeah, he just wants to go against Walter.
I'm chairman of the board. I got nothing but time. What do you want to know? Rosebud, huh? Some girl?
That's probably not a lady.
One day back in 1896, I was crossing over to Jersey on the ferry. A white dress she had on. She was carrying a white parasol. I only saw her for 1 second. The month hasn't gone by since I haven't thought of that girl.
Really?
You take Mr. Kane. It wasn't money he wanted. You know who you ought to see? Mr. Leland. Never had a nickel. Father is worth $10 million, and then one day he shoots himself, and it turns out there's nothing but debts.
Oh, looks rich, but none of them were assets. All of them were liabilities and debts.
I'm Herbert Carter, the editor-in-chief.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. But,
How do you do, Mr. Carter?
Carter?
Yeah, yes.
Mr. Carter.
How do you do?
Mr. Carter.
Yes, how do you do?
Mr. Carter.
Yes, Mr. Bernstein.
Mr. Carter.
Dean Kane.
I'm going to live right here in your office as long as I have to. The news goes on for 24 hours a day.
24/7.
Here's a front page story in the Chronicle about a Mrs. Harry Silverstone in Brooklyn who's missing. She's probably murdered.
What kind of flame is that?
If the headline is big enough, it makes the news big enough.
That's right, Mr.
Now, the
Kane.
murder of this Mrs. Harry Silverstone.
There's no proof that woman was murdered.
Send your best man to see Mr. Silverstone and have him tell Mr. Silverstone if he doesn't produce his wife, the Inquirer will have him arrested. If Mr. Silverstone gets suspicious, get indignant, and call Mr. Silverstone an anarchist. Loudly so the neighbors can hear you.
Man, they're gonna give Mr. Carter a heart attack. I guess he quit. He couldn't take it.
Declaration of Principles. I'll provide the people of this city with a daily paper that will tell all the news honestly. I'll also provide them with a fighting and tireless champion of their rights as citizens and as human beings.
I'd like to keep that particular piece of paper myself. It might turn out to be something pretty important.
Oh, he's looking straight at the camera when he says that. And when Kane declared that, and when he was writing on the paper, his face was all shadowed as if he will always remain in the dark or anonymous, or people won't know his contributions in the end.
Chronicle's a good idea for a newspaper. Notice the circulation.
With them fellas, it's no trick to get circulation.
You're right. 6 years ago, I looked at a picture of the world's greatest newspaper men. I felt like a kid in front of a candy store. I got my candy. All of it.
He hired them all? Bought them all with money. He can buy almost anything with money.
Is there a song about Charlie? Is there a song about you, Mr. Kane? Hold the boy, you may be sure that he'll do all he can. I'll bet you 5 you're not alive if you don't know his name.
They actually made a song for him.
Thinks the dough was made to spend and acts the way he thinks. These men who were with the Chronicle, weren't they just as devoted to the Chronicle policy as they are now to our policy?
As long as you've got enough money, you can buy them over again and again.
He'll have them changed to his kind of newspaper men in a week.
There's always a chance they'll change Mr. Kane.
He wants to buy the world's biggest diamond.
For what?
I didn't know Charlie was collecting diamonds.
He ain't. He's collecting somebody that's collecting diamonds. Welcome home, Mr. Kane, from 467 employees of the New York Enquirer. Mr. Kane, on behalf of all the employees...
I'm sorry. I can't accept it. No. Goodbye.
I can't accept it, but he still took it.
Emily Monroe Norton. She's the niece of the President of the United States.
Before he's through, she'll be a president's wife.
He never did become a president, though.
Miss Emily Norton was no Rosebud.
It didn't end very well, did it?
Yeah, they divorced in 1916.
This Rosebud you're trying to find out about, maybe that was something he lost.
Maybe his mother.
Kane was a man who lost almost everything he had. Old age. It's the only disease, Mr. Thompson, that you don't look forward to being cured of.
Being cured of old age means you're no longer living.
I can remember absolutely everything, young man. One of the greatest curses ever inflicted on the human race, memory. He never gave himself away. He never gave anything away. He just left you a tip. He never believed in anything except Charlie Kane. Never had a conviction except Charlie Kane in his life. After the first couple of months, she and Charlie didn't see much of each other except at breakfast. It was a marriage just like any other marriage.
I absolutely adore you. I'll call Mr. Bernstein, have him put off my appointments until noon.
A well-meaning fathead who's letting a pack of high-pressure crooks run his administration.
He happens to be the president, Charles, not you.
That's a mistake that will be corrected one of these days.
People will think...
What I tell them to think.
His attitude is changing to become more, how do you say, dominating?
He married for love.
But love didn't last.
All he really wanted out of life was love. He just didn't have any to give. Well, he loved Charlie Kane, of course.
How about his second wife?
Susan Alexander.
What is the matter with you, young lady?
Hey.
What?
Hey.
Toothache?
Go see the dentist.
You got dirt in your face.
It's not dirt, it's mud.
You want some hot water? I live right here.
Oh, she literally lives right here.
I'm wiggling both my ears at the same time.
That's it.
You really like me, though, even though you don't know who I am.
Without you, I don't know what I'd have done. No, I don't know many people.
I know too many people. I guess we're both lonely. I was on my way to the Western Manhattan warehouse in search of my youth. My mother died a long time ago, and her things were put in storage out west. Tonight I was going to take a look at them.
Pretty old.
How old?
22 in August.
That's a ripe old age. What do you do?
That's a ripe old age. 22 is not old.
Wanted to be a singer, I guess. I didn't. My mother did.
What happened to singing?
My voice isn't that kind. It's just, you know what mothers are like.
Yes, I know. Would you sing for me?
Oh, you wouldn't want to hear me sing.
Yes, I would.
Yes, Linda.
The working man and the slum child know they can expect my best efforts in their interests. I'll do everything in my power to protect the underprivileged, the underpaid, and the underfed.
Those are big promises.
My first official act as governor of this state, prosecution and conviction of Boss Jim W. Geddes.
In that case, Geddes will retaliate very strongly.
There's a call I want you to make with me, Charles.
Can wait.
No, it can't. I'm going to 185 West 74th Street.
I suppose that's where Susan lives.
Charlie forced me to send your wife the letter. I didn't want it. He's been saying the most terrible...
That must be Geddes.
This Mr. Kane makes up his mind by tomorrow that he's so sick he has to go away for a year or two. Monday morning, every paper in the state except his will carry the story I'm going to give him.
Yeah, I knew Geddes would retaliate when he's backed into a corner.
If you don't listen to reason, it may be too late.
Too late? For you and this public thief to take the love of the people of this state away from me? There's only one person in the world to decide what I'm going to do, and that's me.
If anybody else that'd say what's going to happen to you, it'd be a lesson to you.
I'm Charles Foster Kane. I'm going to send you to Sing Sing. It is. Sing Sing.
I guess Kane didn't expect the scandal to cause all his voters to lose trust in him. And in the end, he couldn't continue his political career.
Hello, Jedediah.
I'm drunk.
Hello, drunk.
It's obvious the people prefer Jim Geddes to me.
You talk about the people as though you own them. Give in the people their rights, as if you could make them a present of liberty as a reward for services rendered. You don't care about anything except you. You just persuade people that you love them so much that they ought to love you back. Only you want love on your own terms.
Toast, Jedediah, to love on my terms. Those are the only terms anybody ever knows.
Why are you through with politics?
Am I through with politics? I should say vice versa.
Is politics true with me?
Are you going to sing at the Metropolitan, Mrs. Kane?
Charlie said if I didn't, he'd build me an opera house.
And he did.
Oh, no! You'll not wait.
It's much more pressure and work than she thought it would be, isn't it?
Mr. Leland and Mr. Kane, they haven't spoken together for years. Miss Susan Alexander, a pretty but hopelessly incompetent amateur. Mr. Kane,
Get me a typewriter. I'm going to finish Mr. Leland's notice.
Well, I mean, if that's Leland's real thoughts, then he's typing it honestly. Is Kane going to type exactly what Leland thought, or is he going to make it sound like an angel singing?
He's
I
writing
see.
a bad notice, like you wanted it to be.
Hello, Jedediah. You're fired.
Ooh. First time they've spoken to in years, and he fires him.
He thought that by finishing that notice, he could show me he was an honest man. He was always trying to prove something. Susie being an opera singer, I was trying to prove something. Candidate Kane found in love nest with, quote, singer, unquote. He was going to take the quotes off the singer.
Huh. I didn't realize there was a significance of the quotation marks in the singer.
He was disappointed in the world, so he built one of his own, an absolute monarchy.
Why did Susan leave Kane?
You know, maybe I should never have sung for Charlie that first time I met him. He was really interested in my voice. What do you suppose he built that opera house for? I didn't want it. I didn't want to sing.
Oh, I see. She didn't personally want it. I suppose Kane was really trying to prove something. Prove that she can sing.
Get the voice out of the throat. You're out of pitch. Some people can sing,
Oh,
some can't.
he can sing.
I thought you'd see it my way.
No.
Hey, why are they repeating this scene again? Her teacher was there to guide her the entire time. What is Leland doing? I'm sure with sufficient practice, she could hit that note. Or they could, like, drop the pitch down a little bit to match her natural voice. That would be much better.
Stop telling me he's your friend. Friend don't write that kind of review. All these other papers pounding me, I could expect that.
Yeah, I suppose Susan took it quite hard, all this criticism.
Sending him a letter telling him he's fired with a $25,000 check in it. What kind of firing do you call that?
And he tore up that check.
What's that?
Ah,
Declaration of Principle.
the declaration he kept.
I'm through. I never wanted to in the first place.
Oh, he tore it.
I don't propose to have myself made ridiculous.
How about her?
I'm the one that's got to do the singing. Why don't you let me alone?
My reasons satisfy me, Susan. You will continue with your singing.
Yeah, the thing is, it's not what she wants. If it's something she wants for herself, it's different. But this is him ordering her to do it. How does he expect her to passionately sing if she doesn't even have the heart to do it? I guess Leland was right about Kane about this thing. He does want to just prove it. What did she do? Try to overdose?
Guess the strain of preparing for the new opera has excited and confused her.
Yes, I'm sure that was it.
They all know that wasn't it. Oh, she looks terrible.
I couldn't make you see how I felt, Charlie. That a whole audience just doesn't want you.
And yet the tickets are sold out every time.
That's when you've got to fight him. All right. You won't have to fight him anymore.
Charlie, what time is it?
11:30.
New York?
Man, the echo makes everything sound so desolate and lonely.
A person could go crazy in this dump. Nobody to talk to, nobody to have any fun with. I want to go to New York. I'm tired of being a hostess. I want to have fun.
I don't care to visit New York.
I suppose a rich but lonesome life is also, not ideal. The jigsaw puzzles are pretty unique, aren't they? They aren't like the usual jigsaw shape. They're shaped pretty irregularly.
We might have a picnic tomorrow, Susan.
Huh?
I thought we might have a picnic tomorrow.
Who wants to sleep in tents when they got a nice room of their own?
Thought we might have a picnic tomorrow, Susan.
And he was ordering her too. Those birds weren't real. And the flying birds, I think they look like cartoons.
You never really give me anything that belongs to you, that you care about. You just try to buy me into giving you something.
Susan!
You don't love me. You want me to love you. I'm Charles Foster Kane. Whatever you want, it's yours. But you gotta love me.
Mrs. Kane would like to see you, sir.
You see, the whole place is so freaking big, you have to send a butler to call for your husband.
You've gone completely crazy. Should know that our guests, that everyone here will know about this.
I don't think she cares at this point.
I won't let you go.
It's a bit too late for that now, Mr. Kane.
From now on, everything will be exactly the way you want it to be.
It's too late. Why do you have to wait until the point of no return before you decide to...
I can't do this to you. Oh, yes, I can.
The last 10 years have been tough on a lot of people.
Ah, they haven't been tough on me. I just lost all my money.
All the same, I feel kind of sorry for Mr. Kane.
Don't you think I do?
I tell you about Rosebud. How much is it worth to you? $1,000? I know how to handle him. Like the time his wife left.
Yo, why have to show that, cockatoo screaming suddenly? Yeah, they set this whole room up for this, didn't they? Oh man, I'd hate to be the one to clean up this mess. Ah, the one he held in his hand on his deathbed.
Rosebud.
Isn't that similar to his house in the snow when he left his parents? Okay, did not know that was a mirror.
And that's what you know about Rosebud?
Yeah.
Well, that isn't worth $1,000.
Yeah, that isn't worth it. This whole place could be a museum. Millions. Yeah.
He never threw anything away.
He sure liked to collect things, didn't he?
Anything and everything.
It's like he's buying all these things to fill a hole in his life or a hole in his heart, but it could never fill it.
What did you find out about him, Jerry?
Not much, really.
What have you been doing all this time?
Playing with a jigsaw puzzle?
If you could have found out what that rosebud meant, I bet that would have explained everything.
Yeah, I doubt it.
Maybe Rosebud was something he couldn't get or something he lost. I don't think any word can explain a man's life. Rosebud is just a piece in a jigsaw puzzle.
Perhaps. Yep, that's what he was doing the whole time. He was doing a jigsaw puzzle, piecing together the pieces of Kane's life. What happened behind the scenes, the places that people didn't see. Oh, his bed frame. He really kept everything, didn't he? Oh, Rosebud, his sled. Perhaps that's all he wanted, to go back to the time when things were simple, to before he left his parents. The turning point of his life, Rosebud. Hmm. That's right, back to the beginning, back to the intro. No trespassing. Most of the principal actors in Citizen Kane are new to motion pictures. The Mercury Theater is proud to introduce them. No wonder there weren't any credits at the front. So far, I think might be the only like 1940s movie which I see them putting a credits at the end instead of at the front. Now about the Rosebud on the sled, yeah, I think that it was deep down he just wishes that everything would go back to the biggest turning point of his life, which is when his mother and father sent him away with Walter Thatcher. Because if that hadn't happened, then his life would be drastically different. A Rosebud doesn't mean anything to anyone except Kane. To him, it was a time when things were simple, when all he had to worry about was how to slide a sled down the snow. I mean, don't we all think about things like this once in a while? Like, we just look back at our childhood and feel like, well, those were the times without worries. Those were the times when there everything was sunshine and rainbows and not a care in the world. I also like how they ended the movie the same way it began, with the no trespassing sign and then showing that the entire Xanadu. It's a nice touch. And it also shows Kane's wish to want to go back to the past, to the place where it all began. Even as a kid, he opposed Walter or Mr. Thatcher. I'll just say Walter Thatcher. So even as a kid, he opposed Walter Thatcher because perhaps he did not want to be sent away. He wanted to stay with his parents, but his parents insisted on sending him away for his own good. So I think that incident carved a really deep impact on his psyche, so much so that this is how he does things from then onwards. So let me explain it. I wrote some things here. Right, so it's like I said, his parents ordered him to be sent away for his own good. So afterwards, when he grew up, he also ordered people the same way for their own good. So the most obvious example will be with Susan, where he ordered Susan and made Susan continue singing to improve her singing and to prove to people that she's a singer. He did it all for her own good, supposedly. And that's very similar to what his parents did to him. And he never cared about what Susan thinks or how Susan feels. That's also very similar to how his parents treated him, because his parents sent him away without caring how he thinks or without caring about how he feels. So maybe he thinks that this is how people show their love, because children learn by example. So how they're treated, they will usually repeat the cycle to their loved ones. You often hear some children who are raised with abuse will eventually also treat their children the same way. So it's a cycle of abuse. So if a children is raised with love, then, well, generally, normally, they would also raise their children with love because that's how they were raised. There was also that one particular scene where Susan told him that she didn't want to continue anymore, and then Kane told her that that's when she has to fight them to prove them wrong. And that's how he's been living his life the whole time. He rebelled against Walter Thatcher. He rebelled against Geddes. He's been fighting his whole life. So that's how he lives his life, and that's how he expects others to live too. And that's why he expects Susan to also fight to prove to others that she's a singer. But the thing is, that's not what Susan wants. It's what he wants her to do, but she doesn't want it. I also like the storytelling, like how at first they show you the entire life of Kane as seen by the public, Then they show pieces of his life, the truth, what happened behind the scenes. And then the story just unravels bit by bit, like assembling a jigsaw puzzle. And everything the newspaperman did, from interviewing Mr. Bernstein to reading Walter's diary to interviewing Susan, it all continues the story where they left off previously and slowly tells the story of Kane's life. And Kane's life is a tragic life. Even though he is ridiculously rich and he could summon people at his beck and call, but he is lonely. And even Xanadu, the place, is like a place of desolation. Just to talk to Susan from a distance, you can hear all the echoes, and they have a shout just to hear each other. It's ridiculous and it's too much. And you can see Susan's room. There are so many things there. You know, all these beautiful decorations, the silk curtains, the silk bed sheets, maybe diamonds, jewelry, and all that. But for what? Like, Susan didn't care for any of that. Perhaps Susan just wanted a very simple life with a loving husband. And Kane did not know how to provide that love because he had never been loved the same way in his entire life. So he was a lonely man surrounded by many people, but they surrounded him only because of his connections and his wealth. He didn't even know how to show his love to Emily, his first wife. As you can see, when they got married, it seemed to be, you know, like really warm love at first, but eventually it just became bland, cold, nothing. He committed all his time to his job, to the newspapers, and he also became even more domineering, believing that people should do what he wants them to do. And just one word, I guess I would say it's very tragic life that he had. So the word that I would use is tragedy. What do you think about Kane's life and this entire movie in general? You know, just let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.